the theological root of the Israel-Palestinian conflict. A pro-Zionist narrative. Imagine a promise spoken thousands of years ago, still echoing through every news headline today. You see, the Israel-Palestinian conflict didn't begin in 1948. It didn't even begin with borders or politics. It began with a covenant, a sacred promise between God and a man named Abraham. 1. The promise and the covenant. Enter Genesis 12. God speaks to Abraham. Go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse. And all peoples on earth will be blessed through you. Pause and think. That single promise would shape millennia. Then comes the land promise. Genesis 12:7, to your descendants I will give this land, that land. Canaan, the land that would later be called Israel. This wasn't a symbolic promise. It was specific, geographical, generational, eternal. God later reaffirms it to Isaac, Genesis 26:3, and to Jacob, Genesis 28:13. Jacob, whose name is changed to Israel, passes it to his 12 sons, the 12 tribes. From there, the land becomes part of their divine identity. It's not just homeland, it's Holy Land. 2. The Exodus, the kingdom, and the exile. Centuries later, Abraham's descendants, now enslaved in Egypt, cry out for deliverance. Through Moses, God brings them out in the Exodus, promising again to bring them into a land flowing with milk and honey. Under Joshua, they enter and settle the land. They build cities, plant vineyards, raise families. Then comes the Golden Era. King David establishes Jerusalem as the capital. God calls it the City of David. This is why Israel's flag today is the Star of David. Solomon and his son builds the magnificent temple, the dwelling place of God on earth. But prosperity leads to idolatry and division. The United Kingdom fractures Israel in the north, Judah in the south. Prophets warn, if you forsake the covenant, you'll lose the land. And so it happens. The Assyrians invade first. Destroying the northern kingdom around 722 BCE, they scattered the 10 tribes of Israel, the so-called lost tribes. Then the Babylonians come in 586 BCE, conquering Jerusalem, destroying the temple, and exiling the southern kingdom of Judah. By the rivers of Babylon, the exiles weep. Psalm 137:1. By the waters of Babylon, we sat down and wept when we remembered Zion. But even in exile, hope remains. Prophets like Isaiah, Jeremiah, and Ezekiel speak of restoration. Isaiah 11:12 proclaims, He will raise a banner for the nations and gather the exiles of Israel. He will assemble the scattered people of Judah from the four corners of the earth. That hope of return to Zion becomes the heartbeat of the Jewish soul. 3. The diaspora and the undying longing. The Babylonians fall to Persia, and under Cyrus the Great, some Jews return and rebuild the temple. But foreign empires continue to rule. The Greeks, then the Romans, revolts break out. The temple is destroyed again in 70 CE by Rome. And once more, the Jewish people are scattered to Babylon, North Africa, Spain, Europe, Yemen, Persia. Yet wherever they go, they carry Zion in their prayers. They end every Passover meal with, next year in Jerusalem. They pray 3 times a day, facing the city. They teach their children, this is our land given by God. Stop and think about that. What other people has survived 2,000 years of exile without losing their identity, language, or dream of going back home? The Jewish connection to the land of Israel is not nostalgia, it's covenantal memory. 4. The modern awakening, Zionism, and prophecy. Fast forward to the 19th century. Europe modernizes, but anti-Semitism persists. Pogroms sweep Russia. Jews are expelled, beaten, humiliated. The question arises, can we ever truly belong anywhere but our own land? From that question, Zionism is born. At first, it is a national revival movement, an attempt to rebuild the homeland in the ancient land of the Bible. But for religious Jews, It's more than nationalism. It's prophecy. Ezekiel 37 describes a vision. It says, "Son of man, can these dry bones live?" God tells Ezekiel that the bones Israel will rise again, flesh will cover them, and he will bring them back to their land. To Zionists, this was not allegory. It was destiny. The return of Jews to Israel was the fulfillment of God's promise to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They began to return, buying land, draining swamps, rebuilding Hebrew, restoring ruins. Imagine that. A language reborn, a nation reborn, in the very soil their ancestors walked. 5. The British Mandate and the rising tensions. After World War I, the Ottoman Empire collapses. Britain takes control of Palestine. In 1917, the Balfour Declaration is issued. His Majesty's government view with favor the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people. For the Jewish people, this felt like a modern echo of Genesis 12. Nations acknowledging God's promise, but it came with tension. By then, Arabs, many of whom had lived there for centuries, also saw the land as theirs. They too had deep roots. And here's an overlooked truth. Some local Muslims, especially in certain tribes, believed they were descendants of the ancient Israelites. They said, "Yes, this is the land of the Jews, but we are those Jews. Our ancestors were Israelites who became Muslim." In their eyes, they weren't foreigners resisting Israel's claim. They were heirs of the same lineage, now under a different faith. The Jewish return continued. Immigration rose. Tensions erupted in violence. Still, the Jewish communities persisted, building schools, farms, cities, and institutions, believing they were participating in a divine return. 6. The State of Israel. Prophecy in modern time. In 1948, after the Holocaust, which was the unimaginable loss of 6 million Jews, the nations voted. The United Nations approved the partition plan. 2 states, 1 Jewish and 1 Arab. The Jewish leadership accepted. The Arab leadership rejected. On May 14, 1948, David Ben-Gurion declared, "We hereby proclaim the establishment of the Jewish state in Eretz Israel to be known as the State of Israel." Hours later, 5 Arab armies invaded, yet Israel survived, defeating the 5-country Arab armies. The war created deep wounds, hundreds of thousands of Palestinians displaced, many still living as refugees. But to Jews around the world, the miracle was undeniable. A people exiled for 2,000 years had returned and rebuilt their nation. The dry bones had come to life. Prophecy, they believed, had moved from scripture to reality. 7. The return of Jerusalem. 19 years later, another miracle. Surrounded by enemy armies, Israel fought the Six-Day War in June 1967. Another stinging defeat to the Muslims. When the dust settled, Israel had captured the West Bank, Gaza, the Golan Heights, Sinai, and most symbolically, Jerusalem. Jewish soldiers wept as they touched the Western Wall, the remnant of Solomon's temple. They blew the shofar and declared, "The Temple Mount is in our hands." For Jews, it was the fulfillment of Psalm 126. When the Lord restored the fortunes of Zion, we were like those who dream. For Palestinians, it was catastrophe. For the Muslim world, it was a deep wound, the loss of Jerusalem, a city sacred to Islam as well. And yet, despite the political complexity, the spiritual meaning was unmistakable. The Jewish people were home. 8. The religious dimension. Islam, inheritance, and identity. Here lies one of the deepest layers of the conflict, the theological one. Islam acknowledges many of the same prophets as Judaism. The Quran even refers to God giving the land to the children of Israel. But interpretations differ. Many Muslim scholars teach that while the land was once given to the Israelites, the covenant was later superseded by Islam. However, not all Muslims see it that way. Some quietly accept that the Jewish people have an ancient claim to the land, even if politics complicates it. And as mentioned, some Arabs in the region truly believe they are descendants of those ancient Israelites, lost tribes, who over time embraced Islam. It's an extraordinary twist of history. Both peoples may in part share the same blood, but their faiths tell different stories about what that inheritance means. 9. When theology meets politics. And so, we reach the modern impasse. This conflict isn't merely about lines on a map, it's about sacred geography. To the Jewish people, this land is promised by God. To many Muslims, it is part of the Waqf, the holy trust of Islam. Every inch of soil carries theological weight. Every stone of Jerusalem holds eternal meaning. That's why peace plans, no matter how well-intentioned, often collapse. Because for many, to give up the land feels like giving up God's promise. And for others, to accept Israel's sovereignty feels like surrendering faith. When political negotiation meets divine conviction, compromise becomes almost impossible. 10. The covenant endures. And yet, through it all, Israel endures. Surrounded, pressured, condemned, and yet alive. Still thriving and growing. In its rebirth, pro-Zionists see the fingerprints of God. They see Deuteronomy 30 come true. Then the Lord your God will restore your fortunes and have compassion on you and gather you again from all the nations where he scattered you. They see Ezekiel's dry bones standing upright again. They see prophecy unfolding before the world's eyes. You see, for the Jewish people, Israel isn't merely a homeland, it's the evidence of divine faithfulness. Every return flight to Tel Aviv, every prayer at the Western Wall, every Hebrew word spoken in Jerusalem is testimony that God keeps his promises. 11. A shared heritage, a possible future. But the story isn't finished. There are Muslims and Jews both aware of their shared roots in Abraham who quietly dream of reconciliation. They understand something profound, that the God who gave the promise also commanded mercy, justice, and peace. Perhaps, one day, when the dust settles, both peoples will see the covenant not as a weapon, but as a bridge, as a call to responsibility. Because if Abraham is truly the father of both Isaac and Ishmael, then both peoples carry his legacy. And maybe, just maybe, the fulfillment of the promise will include peace, not only for Israel, but through Israel, to the nations. 12. Final thought. Stop and think. This is not just the story of a nation. It is the story of a covenant that refuses to die. A promise that survived Assyrian captivity, Babylonian exile, Roman destruction, medieval persecution, and modern hatred. The world calls it the Israel-Palestinian conflict. But beneath the politics lies something far older and far holier. A promise that began with Abraham, survived exile, and is still unfolding today. And that, you see, is the theological root of it all. A divine covenant written on the land, kept through a people, and witnessed by history itself. Thanks so much for watching all the way through. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to smash that like button. It really helps the channel grow. Drop a comment below and let me know what you think or what topics you'd like to see next. Also remember, sip and subscribe. The button is down there, and ring the notification bell so you never miss out on new content. Stay awesome, stay hydrated, and I'll catch you in the next one.